Hi everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield. I'm a professional dancer, professional dance choreographer, and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States. And we're going to take another look at Deep and DAP's Mega Crew because so many of you guys have been very helpful for me. Because I know when I originally reacted to this a couple days ago, their second song in particular really threw me off, so much so part of it was because it was in Korean and I'm not fluent in Korean. I am working on it. To where I really wasn't understanding what was being discussed. But as well as the kind of beat, that the backtrack that was happening, it felt very different than the first song and the last song that they had. So it was really difficult for me to find a sense of collaboration or connection between all of their songs they chose. And a lot of you were so helpful for me in helping me figure out what the song was, what the meaning behind it was, even some of the dialect that was used. So I just wanted to take another look at it with this lens, and I already too I have the English translation. I already looked at the translated version of the song as well, just so I can, at least with that section of the Mega Crew, really look at it from that lens. So that's what this video is mostly going to be focused on, is the second section, because I also agree that I don't think I really touched on the content as much because of that disconnect for me personally with the song to the other songs in their mashup. So we're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna take a look at that little section here. I believe it starts like maybe around here. Yeah, so this is near the tail end of their first section here. Let me just say before we get into this, I think they probably had one of my favorite costumes because I've watched all of them at this point. I think their venue was phenomenal. Their costumes were amazing. I loved the usage of the blindfolds. And I do know that the song too it does talk about I can't find you, so that's a really nice wordplay on that. And I think like they really did think through a lot of their concept. Like their concept felt very cohesive. And really the only thing that I didn't feel like was as cohesive was their second track, which is why we're looking at it right now. Now, I love what she's doing there, just the control to go up in a handstand and then look, doing a push press up into a handstand is so nice. Now, we got to talk through this formation. I think I've already mentioned it before, but we're just going to kind of treat this like a new analysis for the second one. So I really like how they chose to frame my center dancer. So she is, I'm assuming, a member of the crew because she's wearing the blue. And so they are mirroring each other, it looks like. And then you have your people right down here. But also you have them kind of framing with a little bit more of handography. It could be possibly tutting, not quite sure right now at the moment. Yeah. I love that peel up choice because they didn't do it from the inside to outside, where you do a lot of times can see like a standard way that people do a peel out is going from a center point and then making it symmetrical all the way through. It does show a really nice fluency of craft or yourself as a choreographer if you're able to make more sporadic ripple or add-on choices. So I'm kind of want to see what ended up happening there with that. Yeah, so they ended up doing, they split it in lines versus peeling it out from the center to the outside. So normally you would see somebody from the center and then you would see like these groupings would probably go and then these groupings would go and then these groupings would go. But that's not what happened at all. What ended up happening was it was here and then you had like a couple people here and then you had your entire line, excluding your back line, happen here. And then you had your tops and your bottom. So it actually framed from middle to outside. So that was a really tasteful, really nice choice here. And yeah, so let's just keep going. So I will say when I'm really trying to listen and it has like a floral-esque kind of aesthetic about the back, and it feels like, you know, because it's Lehigh and her tone is very alto and so it's deeper and it's full. Like I really love Lehigh's voice in this track, and just being able to see, these choices make more sense to me now, and I really like them, and I liked them originally. I just think that I was so caught off guard because part of the backbeat, because 1 Million's mashup is a great example of what I was talking about, a mashup making the most sense in tone, like how it sounds, as well as the instrumentation. So the instruments used were, there was some carryover throughout the whole thing, so it felt cohesive on a music side, not just on a costume side, not just on a venue side or formation side, right? So I feel like whenever you're doing a set, you have to factor all of those things in, not just one or two things. And so because, Street Woman Fighter Season 2, you do have some international audiences because you have some international represented crews, as well as just a lot of these styles that they are influenced by come from an international, from America or from Africa or from other places outside of Korea. Now they have a lot of Korean traditional postures that they did in the beginning, especially, which I loved. I absolutely love that kind of integration of your culture into what you're doing. I absolutely love that because it makes me feel like you have a sense of artistry, and it feels like I'm actually watching you too. You know what I mean? And so I really love the choices that they made with that first set too. And so I think part of it was I was expecting that to bleed over into the rest of the set. But this does feel like this is still, I will say, this is still like, I think my favorite Deep and Dop performance they've done in comparison to all the other things they've shown us. I really think this is definitely a huge progression in the right direction for me for this. So that was like my huge note, I think, here. Do I feel like I really wish that if they went with this track like they did, I wish that, okay, it makes sense. Lyrics with this make sense. I get that. I do feel that I wish that there was more of the instruments that were happening in the other two songs that were subtly integrated into this one to make it sound more cohesive, right? And I'm just talking about the music, not the content, right? Because I feel like by that, even if the lyrics didn't make sense with it, or if the lyrics do make sense, that would be no contest, right? And I think it stems from, there was somebody who asked a question in the comments earlier about my opinion on focusing on lyrics or beats depending on what culture you're from, and I do plan on answering that. I mean, I'll give a brief thing. I know for me, I focus on tone and the backbeats a lot, and then from there I can go into the lyrics, especially if I want to use it for a project. I want to make sure the lyrics are appropriate, but also to see if they are relevant to the project that I'm doing, or if I'm choreographing for something, or if I'm dancing, right? So with that being said, like for me personally, because I'm speaking from my experience, I come my background, I prefer listening to tone and backbeats, because in my culture, for myself, we don't really think through the lyricism as much for me, but I've gotten more familiar with that as time has gone on. And I know with some people, they care more about the lyrics, especially if they are listening to music that they have to translate often. They tend to care about the lyricism a little bit more, and I think there's something to be said about that. That could be because of the crew's choice. They care more about the lyrics more so than the beats, and I think that's totally fine too. You know what I mean? And I think that's completely justifiable, and it shows Deep and Dop who they are, So I do like that. So, and I already touched on this too, going back to the dance, that it's interesting that they chose to do lifts going to all four corners. I think I only noticed 2 of them, so it's cool that I'm actually catching 4. And then you have your features right here in the center, but noticing that they're going in all 4 directions. It's normally you see this kind of lift, like I said before, happen more in the forefront, like that's your focal point, but your dancers are in the front, and they're framing very well, but they're kind of creating more depth and height to what we're watching. So I like that. So I also like what they just did there too with the ticking down, and I did mention that before, so let me see if there's another aspect that I really liked about that. Yeah, so even the seamlessness of getting the lifts off was really tastefully done because I didn't notice it at all, which is kudos to them thinking through the entirety of the lift and getting that transitioned out. Now, I will keep saying this. I mean, I feel like a lot of the mega crews they love their basket runs, and I've already kind of mentioned it before in my previous like big mega crew video. For myself, I am somebody that I have to grow myself in this too. Sometimes it's the easiest thing to do is to just do a basket run to get to a new spot because it's easy, it's clean, and it's minimal effort in trying to think through like, okay, how can I make this captivating and this, that, and the other. Like, it's just an easier choice to make. Especially when you have a lot of people, sometimes you make that concession. So I understand that. I do wish, just my personal preference, remember, it's just my opinion. My personal preference is if they did something with their, they're grabbing their dresses, which is nice, but also like being able to have a sense of build with the body versus going down and then creating another moment, but also that's really hard to do, which is probably why they made the choice they did, which is totally fine. And it also showed the crispness of everybody shooting up, having everybody low, so that's another thing. And I am a big fan of the framing here. I still love that. I really love this formation. And I will say this is probably one of my favorite color grades of all the videos that we've seen from Street Woman Fighter so far. I love it. It's great. So pretty. Yeah, so like having the stark difference with somebody going nice and smooth, with they're creating nice and sharp movement in between the two. That's really nice. I love that moment there. Like, that was really cool. So they actually have a cute little heart shape that's happening now. Look, oh, love that. But what they did before is you had these two groups super separated. So you had your 3 independent groups, and then they used that one groove to get it transitioned over with all the people. And I'm actually very impressed with the spacing that they maintained for that. I think Wolflow is another good example of they had this chaotic energy happening in their transition in one of their formations, but it looked clean because you had your outside V maintain their spacing so well that it it's like organized chaos is really what it was, and it was really nice to see. I will also say too, when unison, I think they did a good job here as well as not doing too much unison, right? I do feel like in some of their smaller crews, they played too safe. It felt too safe because they did a lot of unison for content, and they just changed the formation versus like actually creating dynamics and levels and mirroring and peel outs and ripples and that kind of stuff. Here I feel like because it's like you're like what is it, like in K-pop or in group dances, you have like your key point choreo where like when everybody's in unison, it kind of feels right for that's going to be like your viral section of movement. That's what this feels like to me, and it does, but it doesn't feel like K-pop. I will say Bebe's, I love their set, but it did feel very K-pop in influence in comparison to a lot of the other, like it didn't feel as much as a mega crew. It felt like a lot of people creating a K-pop concept on stage. It was very cool, but did it match the criteria of a mega crew, like what criteria for mega crew would be for the show? I don't know, we'll find out in next week, but I mean, I think they did a great job. But I would say here, like, it's a little different, like the unison here, or this key point here, it doesn't feel like K-pop, even though there's an influence, because a lot of their background comes from that, right? But I think that it works, and it shows you like it's digestible. Like it's giving me a lot of digestible information without going too ham, right? And it's not taking us away from what they've already content-wise have already done. So I really do like that. And I love the pull of the skirt before they run away. I think that's just a really nice usage of your costume. Yep. So I have talked with the aerial shot. We've seen a lot of these beautiful circles. They're always impressive. Whenever you get a lot of people and you get them all on the same page, I think it's very impressive to note that. Like, these are really difficult sets. Every single set that we've seen in the Mega Crew are difficult to pull off just from the sheer number. You have the 100 dancers from 1 million versus you have others who have maybe 20, 30, right? it's still difficult. The more people you have, the more moving parts you have, and the more visuals you have to represent, because you have people, so the expectation is higher, right? So this is a really good formation to do, but notice that everybody who chose to do this formation approached it in a different way. Some like intertwined their circles, some people had a low and a high, some people had a high to a low, and some of them chose to have a feature in the center, and some chose to have a group in the center. So each crew showcased themselves in a different way for their usage of a circle like this, which I really like. Just those who had this formation. Really nice. Yeah. I like that. So, you know, and just there's that boom, 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 boom. I don't know if they hit that part. Let me see. They're hitting that boom. They're hitting the bass there. Yeah, I don't, so you know how like they were hitting, that's kind of a note that I just noticed here. If most of your content for this section is hitting that bass, a lot of times you do want to switch up the layers that you choose to choreograph on, but that bass did change from that bum, 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 and then it went to a da 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 da, you know. I don't know if they were trying, like, I know the inside people weren't hitting that, and I don't know if the outside people were using their transition or they're coming up to run away on that bass, because the camera angle's a little tricky to see that. Ready? So it goes. So they're all, I love the heads, like both groups have the head like that there. I just don't think that they hit that bass. And I wish that they did. I think that was just a somebody I really love when there's a lot of like bass interruptions or there's shifts in the music, and I love seeing it when dancers integrate that. Personally, I really love that. And so I think that's really out of the content that I've seen so far, which is very impressive from Deep and Dop especially. That was really the only section that I felt like, ooh, there was a bass opportunity there that I think would have been really cool to see them explore, personally. I like that. It was simple, basic add-on, but it was nice and it didn't take away from our feature, which I liked. Yeah. So, and I think for this, it goes back to unison. They changed their formations and things, but you still see your features. I love this right here. Now, I have seen a mega crew do this before. Funnily enough, it was Royal Family. I think it was 2013. Their set with HHI. They were in black and yellow. I do remember that. I think that one, out of all their sets, fun fact, I think that one was my favorite that they've ever done, was their 2013, if you want to go watch that. But they used they didn't use blindfold. So here's the thing, and I don't think they took this from them. I've just seen this kind of framing done before, but it doesn't discredit the fact that I love the formation they chose to do here. Like, they went from high to low and low to high, and then you have your dancers here. I don't believe they have theirs, or maybe they do. Hold on, do they? They do. It's in red though. I really love, it's the subtle things, like the color of theirs in contrast to the color of their blindfold is really nice. And there is something to say, like, with your camera angles do help with your unison sections too, because if you want to create a certain visual of complexity of the unison, sometimes your angle in which you want people to see it is important. Like this, I really do like this. I will say, just a little cleanliness note, we notice that not everybody's arms are the exact same. If this is in fact a unison section, that's just something to kind of take note of. Like I said, the more people you have, the more difficult it is to do unison effectively, so that's, but all the key points of the choreo are definitely being shown very well here. Now, remember what I said in the first time if you watched it. So I love the framing here where you have your dancers kind of throughout here with your one here. That was really nice, and they're all framing, creating this nice, that was an awful drawing, but you see what I'm saying? Like, it was a really nice frame, but you see what this looks like. It looks like it's a finish, like it's done, but we know that it's not. We have a whole nother minute of content. So for me, I think that's still another note that I still feel the same on, that I do still agree with, that I do wish that this had a more, what's the word? Like it immediately went into the next song, versus having a pause and then moving on to the next song. But honestly, it's, at the end of the day, it's totally fine, because I watched the end of it anyway. It's not like I stopped watching. That was just, out of all things, I feel that if we had this pose and then, but there was music that helped transition instead of that pause and then faded it into a next track. I think that's my only note for that little bit. But I mean, all in all, for this second section, it's definitely, it's very tasteful. I mean, the music makes sense with it a lot more now than it did when I watched it. So thank you for all of you guys who've helped me with that. Do I still feel that there could have been suggested possibly different choices? Always. The answer is going to be always, right? So there's even with my own choreo, I run into the same problem. There's always going to be things that I wish I did differently. But sometimes whenever your circumstances, your content, your costume, your timing, the density of what you want to bring, the turnaround time, the filming circumstances, like we have no idea any of these things, you know? And I feel that I don't want to assume too much or be like everybody was given the same exact parameters and the same exact budget in the same exact time, because I don't believe that to be true, right? Everybody has different connections, everybody had different circumstances they experienced. So do I feel like these mega crews were set up as equally? No, you know, but it's kind of really difficult to do, right? Whenever you're having these subtle, like some of you are saying there's these subtle challenges that are happening at the same time, like, you know, I know there were some crews that had way, like a significantly harder time than other crews, and I think at the end of the day, like all the mega crews brought themselves to the table, and I think each one brought something where it showed their strength, and then each crew also brought something that, you know, is showcasing a tad bit of their weaknesses. But that's how it works though. Like there's no perfection is impossible, right? So we can't look at these and be like this was perfect. None of them are. Mannequins wasn't perfect. 1 Millions wasn't perfect. There's people who weren't clean in all of them, because when you deal with a lot of people, that's kind of impossible, right? Especially with the type of turnaround time. But it doesn't mean it's not impressive, right? Like it's astronomically impressive, the quality that we've seen from all of the crews, all of them. You know, and I've loved watching them, and I've been very thankful that you guys have been so gracious to me in giving me kind of more insight on why they may have chosen what they chose, especially from like a cultural themed concept like this. I'm very thankful for that. So thank you. I feel like I learned a lot by going through this again in this view, and I feel like I was able to look at it more appropriately and more authentically and accurately in this sense. So thank you again. And I hope this was helpful in some way, because it sure helped me. And I am so looking forward to not only continuing to watch Street Woman Fighter Season 2, but watching the equivalences in Season 1. I will be getting to the Mega Cruise eventually with Season 1, but I still have a couple more battles in the dance rank and a couple other things to get through before we get to the Mega Cruise of Season 1. But I will do it. I promise. But anyway, thank you again, and I'll check you on the flip side.